So, beautiful people, this is the thing. This honor today, we are going to be thinking about climate change in this honor. Now, I'm going to just flick through these slides. Okay. So hopefully you'll see on the screen a lady and somebody kissing her. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. This lady is my grandmother. Sadly, she passed away in 2017, but that's okay because we have hope. And so, I believe she's sleeping in Jesus, and so it's all right. Now, my nan took me to church when I was little, and she kept encouraging me to go to Pathfinders. She was like, Nell, don't you want to go camping? I was like, no, I really don't enjoy the idea of sleeping outside. No. So I never really got involved, actually, as a teenager in Pathfinders, even though my grandmother's daughter, which is my mum, showed me her Pathfinder sash from when she was a Pathfinder. But it wasn't actually until 2017 that I got involved with my local club and I joined the Master Guide program. And I was blessed by two wonderful ladies in the South England Conference called Carolyn and Cassandra to help guide me through the Master Guide program. So I completed Master Guide. So that's my Pathfinder journey.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. For everybody who now join us on Facebook, we would also like to encourage you, if it's possible, make sure you like our live stream and make sure that if you can, you actually share the link, because this is the one way for us to spread the good news of the E-Club and E-Honors and many good teachings from Bible and also from nature. So thank you, Cheryl, for sharing that story. I did not know that that's when you started your Master Guide and completed it. Well done. Well done.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter when you start. You can start at any time. It doesn't matter if you're old, if you're young. You can get involved in pathfinding because it's fantastic. So anyhow, what we're going to do, so this session, what are you going to need? Obviously, Pastor just talked about sharing the link with for this session. You can go online, you can download the worksheet, you can actually fill in the honor online and submit straight to the BUC. So there's plenty of ways to actually get involved. If not, you can even look back and watch the video again, I believe, and you can get this honor done. Now, I'm bringing this honor to you because I want to think about, it's something I'm interested in, okay? I'm going to think about, why is it that people actually care about climate change or climate science? We're going to explore climate science and the effects of climate change on the globe. And why are we interested? Because the big picture is that as Christians, we want to be good stewards, right? And we want to look after the planet. That's why we're interested. So this is a little bit about what we're going to do, and the pictures give you a few clues. So let's get stuck in. This honor, I'm not going to lie to you, it's a long one. It's quite lengthy. There's about 13 requirements that we're going to fulfill, but by the grace of God, I think we'll be able to do it today, right? Now, we're going to think about what climatology is. We're going to briefly look at some key terms to do with it. We're going to look at some careers around climate science, and we're going to look at what the Bible says about it before actually going on to look at, well, what's the issue? Like, who's causing the problems when it comes to climate change or climate, when we look at climate science? We're going to look at the effects on wildlife and marine life, and hopefully you guys will be able to create a poster when you're no longer on this platform, at the end, and we'll think about maybe something that we could do locally to kind of help with the climate, and then we'll think of some maybe open-ended questions and hopefully get you guys answering some questions. So is that clear?
Yep, that's clear.
Brilliant. So this young lady, boom, dun, dun, loads of people recognize this young lady. Who is she?
Right, we have a question there for you all to be taking part in. Now, do not disappoint us, people. Please write in the comment section on your Facebook or maybe in the chat here in the Zoom. Who is this lady? I know this lady inspires and also annoys many people, but it is very important for us to know who this is. All right, we are waiting for the Facebook audience to catch up because there's about 10 seconds in delay, by the way. But the answers are coming in, and here it is. Somebody says Greta Thunberg.
Go, go, go. Well done to that wonderful person, whoever that was. Okay, and Pastor, do you happen to know where Greta's from?
I'm not 100%. I think it's Sweden. Is that right?
Boom, well done you. Okay, good, well done. So let me tell you a little bit about Greta, okay? So this is Greta Thunberg, and you're absolutely right about who she is. Well done, people. Now, you're thinking like, okay, what's Greta done and why is she so big? You will probably know, you can tell from the picture, that Greta is concerned about our climate. She is concerned about the globe. She's concerned about the fact that, you know, if we don't do something and become a little bit more proactive about how we treat our planet, then unfortunately, you know, our planet may not be so great for generations to come. Okay, and even for us living right now. Then what does she do? In 2018, I believe, when she was 15 years old, she wrote an article or an essay even to a local newspaper about climate change, and it picked up momentum. It picked up so much momentum, she actually won a competition about it. And then she got on Twitter and started kind of like sharing her concerns about climate change, to the point where she stood outside, if you can see, the Swedish parliament and said, you know, that this is the school strike for climate change. And amazingly, about 20,000 people across the globe joined her. People from Belgium, people from the UK, from Japan, like, you know, Greta done big things. And in 2019, she actually went to the United Nations, which is a world peacekeeping organization, to actually talk to them about her concerns. Can anybody tell me what she actually said? You might have seen the memes and a bit of an angry face.
I remember it, but the question is for everybody else: do you remember what she said? If nothing else, at least the beginning of what she said.
3 words. 3 words.
I'm not sure that. Oh, here it is. Somebody wrote it. It's right. Just give a few seconds more. Yeah, that's correct. She wrote, "How dare you?"
Boom, exactly. She said, "How dare you?" She said, "I should be in school. You know, I should be back home in school, not coming to talk to you guys about climate change." We're like, so go Greta. Go, we love her passion. So climate change, let's move on. You might already know what we mean by climate change, but maybe it might help to break it down a little bit more. When we talk about climate change, we're kind of concerned with 2 things. First, we're concerned with things that are scientific, biological and chemical things within the planet that are changing, okay? But then also we're concerned about human activities, the things that human beings are doing that are basically destroying the planet. Okay, now I'm going to be straight up with you. I'm not a scientist. I am a teacher, but I'm not a scientist. But I'm just really interested in this topic. So there may be some questions that you have that I potentially can't answer, but I will definitely try and do my best. Okay, disclaimer, Pastor. Always give the disclaimer.
No, that's upfront policy. Excellent. Let's go.
Okay, so climate. All right, now we're about to get into the first requirement on your honor, but before we do, let's just be clear on what we mean about climate. If you go to the English dictionary, or there is more than one English dictionary out there, but the Collins Dictionary, that's been around for 175 years, it tells us that climate is basically, or when we refer to climate, we're on about the conditions of a place, you know, the climate of a place and the general weather conditions that are typical of it. But the difference between climate and weather is that when we're talking about climate, we're talking about the conditions over something of about 3 decades, of about 30 years plus. So we're not talking like, oh, you know, what's the conditions right now? What's the weather like outside? We're talking about long-term conditions. Is that cool?
That is cool.
Right, let's go. So number 1 then, let's get stuck into these requirements. What is climatology? So you beautiful people need to have a pen handy, and you need to get writing, or you need to be really observant. So in the British English, climatology is just the study of climate. And in the American English, it's the science of dealing with climate and climatic phenomena. Now, there are, you know, significant things that have happened when we actually study and look at how the climate or the temperature, you know, of our globe has actually changed over the last 1,000 years. So for requirement number 2, you need to, if you have downloaded your worksheet, you need to have a go right now at actually drawing this on your graph. So it might take you a couple minutes. So, you know, you need to see if you can label your graph from 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit to 1 degree Fahrenheit on your x-axis, and then on your y-axis you want to move in years from 1,000 years to about 1990. And what you're going to do is you're going to try, but actually keep going. We will go to 2000 actually. So go from 1,000 years AD to 2000 years AD, and I want you to see if you can just roughly copy this on the graph. Now, for those who are copying, you guys get copying now. For those who are not copying, do me a favor. Can you write in your chat? So whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, or wherever you are in the Zoom chat, can you write down what you notice about the graph?
Yep, there is action for us. Also, just to remind everybody, in case you want to complete this honor but you can't at the moment, this is going to be available as well on YouTube. So don't panic, guys. You know, this video is going to be for you there. But a question for everybody is, what are you noticing on this graph? All right, we are slowly getting some answers in a Zoom chat. We're hoping that some answers will be coming soon. Natalie, are you able to take these comments?
Just while we wait for the answers to come in, Shannelle, they don't need to copy this graph exactly. Am I right? You're just asking us the rough outline of the ups and downs, sort of thing.
Yes, just a rough outline. Nothing too precise. We're definitely not testing the graphical skills.
All right, and Natalie, would you be able to take these comments from the Zoom chat as well?
Yep, let's see what we've got on Zoom. We've got the Earth is becoming warmer, so it's to do with temperature getting higher, increasing degrees.
Boom, well done, fantastic. These guys are good. Now let me fast forward a little bit. So hopefully you guys have managed to you know, get a rough idea of what's going on, and you've kind of drawn a graph that's kind of going an increasing line that's going up your graph. So if you have a look at the trends then, so when we're talking about trends, we're talking about what's going on over a period of time from 1880 to 2020. Honestly, if you have a look, you can see here that we're looking at degrees Celsius. What's actually going on, you know, if you start looking at the last couple hundred years?
We're getting more answers now on Facebook as well. And Natalie, if I'm right.
Yep, somebody's said it's increasing from 1990 onwards. It's a huge increase after that.
Boom, you've got it. Sorry, you go ahead.
You're okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. So you've absolutely got it. We've got a serious increase. You know, this isn't something that is mediocre. This is now like a serious increase. So over the past 5 years, we have had some of the warmest temperature conditions that we have had for centuries. And lots of people are really concerned about this because they're saying that, you know, if with the Earth's climate getting warmer, we're prone to what do we think is going to happen if the Earth's climate gets warmer and we get more rainfall? What else might we get? Anybody have any ideas?
All right, somebody's put in swollen seas because of the consistent uptrend.
Absolutely. Yes, we can get flooding, you know, the sea levels rising, we can get more storms, we can get hurricanes, and this is quite significant because you know, even a shift in temperature by 1 or 2 degrees Celsius has a massive impact for us as human beings living on the planet. Okay, now I'm going to show you an example. Now do you know that in 2005, so if you're looking at the grids, okay, or looking at the graph even, in 2005, we had some of the worst storms ever. There was something like 28 tropical cyclones, and 15 of those became hurricanes. Now, if you're thinking like, what on earth is a cyclone? Or what's a hurricane? Or a typhoon. These are basically the same thing, but it's just that depending on where these big storms actually start, we call them different things. So if we're talking about, you know, the South Pacific and the Indian Ocean, then we're talking about a cyclone. If we're talking about the Atlantic Ocean, or, you know, then we'll be talking about a hurricane. So I hope that makes sense. Now I want to show you a video. I'm going to stop sharing. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, now I'm just going to share with you a video from a major hurricane that you may know about from 2005. And this video is from a hurricane called Hurricane Katrina. Now, it started on the 23rd of August, and I'm just going to talk over it. Okay, so can you see it well, Pastor?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so for everybody that's watching, you might be thinking, what's going on here? So what's actually going on is that you can see that this massive storm has started, or this and it started where the Bahamas is, okay? So just above the sea. And this storm was basically so strong that it rose up, and it was considered to be a super, super fast storm of what we call a category 3. That means that when we actually measure the storm on a scale, it has the potential to do serious, serious damage. Now, in the space of just 1 week, this storm that actually rose up and became a hurricane went from being, you know, the start of a hurricane to a category 4 hurricane, and it was even actually recorded to be category 5. So I'm going to explain to you briefly what I mean by that, in case you don't know. So you can see like these winds, you know, this storm is swirling, okay, in the sea, and then it's moving, the storm is moving across. Now, if a storm is considered to be category 1, there are only 5 categories, by the way. There's no such thing as a category 6 hurricane. Now, this is when you're using the Saffir-Simpson scale. A category 1 hurricane means that you've got winds of about 74 to 95 miles per hour. So if you can, in the chat, or maybe this is a bit naughty, but who has parents who break the speed limit, and when they're on the motorway, they go more than 70 miles an hour?
Maybe nobody will admit it, just to prevent tickets arriving to their parents.
Okay, so maybe there's a few people who have, you know, parents who maybe are a little bit naughty and they do break the speed limit. So, you know, when you've got a hurricane that's like, you know, got winds of 74 to 95 miles an hour, you can get some damage, right? But when you're going into a category 2 hurricane, this is where you have got winds of 96 to 110 miles an hour. And when you're at this kind of speed, you can get things like roofs and parts of buildings that maybe might come off, and you can get some serious damage done, not just debris, not just you know, trees falling down. But when you're actually at a category 3 hurricane, which is what Katrina was, and you can see some of the speed of the winds that were actually damaging this place, you get homes that are swept away at 111 to 129 miles per hour. Now, you know, let's move on, because when you're at category 4, you're at 130 to 156 miles an hour. Can you imagine the damage that is done? You're going to have like conditions where you have got serious water, you have got let's get everybody to write in the chat, what types of things do you think are affected when you have got a wind that is moving at 130 to 156 miles an hour?
All right, that's a question for everybody. Yeah, please do write it in the comment section. What do you think? What happens when these type of winds come? Nevertheless, you'll be surprised. But we have our Pathfinders admitting that the dads dads and moms are speeding, just to let you know. So, yeah.
Oh no, let me just pause this. Ay. Let's stop sharing because that's very graphic. Okay.
All right. So, answer questions are there. What happened? What damage is caused by this type of winds? It's a question for everybody to write in a comment section. Okay, speaker's view. We hope that you'll be able to give us some answers there, as Shannelle is sharing her screen for presentation. All right.
All right. In Facebook, we've got destruction, car damage.
Yeah. Probably the car was damaged while Dad was speeding, but the storm will definitely finish it for sure. So here it is. We can see your screen now.
Okay. Brilliant.
We've also got roofs blown away, buildings collapsing, floods.
You need to go into the. You need to go in the full screen for sharing, Shannelle.
There we go. All right. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, you can imagine the tops of buildings, you know, have been completely taken away. You know, you have got conditions that are no longer inhabitable. You know, are habitable. This is a serious situation. And with Hurricane Katrina, apparently there were winds of over 157 miles an hour. There were winds recorded at 175 miles an hour. Now that actually means that this is the top category. This is serious. There was something like 1,800 lives lost, and this is partly due to what we call climate change. So this takes me on to requirement number 3. So for those that are writing, we actually want what you can do is you can copy down as you see the definitions come up on the screen. You can write them down on your worksheet. So I'm going to just go through a few key terms associated with this honour of climate science. So climate change can be described as a long-term change relating to the Earth's climate. So as I mentioned before. Okay, now, according to the United Nations, this is serious because, like I said, you can have catastrophic effects. If the Earth's temperature is warming, we have something that we call global warming. You know, things are affected like the world's coral reef. If you look in, you know, imagine like, if you think about a desert, you know, if you were to go into the sea and you went deep diving, you would see all of these crustaceans that have formed across the bottom, you know, of the seabed. Well, maybe not the very, very bottom, but yes, you'll find them at the bottom, but you'll find them in lots of different places. And these things are called coral reef. Now, these are being ruined because of extreme heat. And when you have got, you know, serious effects of, you know, the Earth actually warming up, you don't just have heat changes, you have got flooding, and then flooding means that you have got more storms and more serious conditions, and you can even have other extremes like drought. And if you're in a country that's really poor, this is a very serious thing. And okay, now we're moving on to the greenhouse gases. Now, I'm going to be honest in saying I don't know a great deal about all of the greenhouse gases. I struggled at school when it came to chemistry, but I can do enough to get by. So when you think about carbon dioxide, what does everybody think of?
Carbon dioxide? All right. Question is, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about carbon dioxide? I did study chemistry. Somebody says car emissions.
Okay, all right, car emissions. Anything else to do with humans?
Carbon
just
dioxide.
While we're waiting, Shannelle, for the answers, we're just giving you a time check that you're halfway through now, okay?
Thank you.
My friend, if you continue with the presentation and as they come in, we'll feed that to you just because of the time.
All right, let's keep going. So, okay, carbon dioxide, if some of you may have actually rightly guessed, this is something that we breathe out. It's something that we breathe out, but sadly, too much of it actually causes a problem in the atmosphere. I'm going to explain to you how. And when you think of methane, what do you think of? Now, Pastor,
yes.
I'll ask you this question.
Yes.
What do you think, what do cows do?
Cows eat a lot.
They eat a lot. Okay, cows have about 4 guts, you know.
Yes.
Now, when they eat, if you're going to eat, like do loads of eating, what might you produce?
It is a very good question on which I'm not qualified to give the answer. But somebody says here in the chat, you need to do number 2.
Could be. Okay, so there, but before we get to that stage, okay, we've got to release gas. So how do you think the cows are releasing gas?
I guess there is only 2 ways to release the gas.
There we go. So they do a lot of burping, and they do a lot of well, you know, in my culture they say pooping. Some people say farting. I don't know which one you want to go with, but they release a lot of wind. Okay, now 95% of the wind comes comes out of their mouth when they burp, but the other bit comes out of their rear. And actually cows produce a lot of methane, and this is actually something that's harmful. And now you guys might be wondering why this is harmful. This is because these gases, okay, when they are in the air, they create what we call the greenhouse effect. This is where the chemical compounds in the atmosphere change. So it's almost as though you can't let the heat out of the planet. Does that make sense? It's like putting a blanket on the planet. And so the heat gets trapped in the planet. And if the heat gets trapped, then basically the heat can't be released. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
All right, let's keep going. So fossil fuels then, on to the next key term. Fossil fuels are natural fuels, even like coal, natural gas or crude oil. They're formed by the decomposition or remains of living things. Now, when they're burnt, they contribute to actually putting more heat trapping gases into the Earth's atmosphere, in the same way that, you know, we talked about methane, and we talked about carbon dioxide. You know, you can get nitrous oxide in the atmosphere, and so this is a problem for us. Moving on to key term number, well, I don't know which key term number it is, but habitat. Okay, now the pictures are quite self-explanatory. You can think about, okay, the different kind of livable conditions to which lots of our animals live in. So you've got the ocean, the forest, the desert, the grassland. A habitat is a situation where an event causes a once livable environment for plants and animals to become unsuitable for living. And sadly, it's expected, well, at the moment we lose around 5 species. Well, it's expected that we lose 5 species a year, but currently we're losing something like 10,000 times this. We're losing about a dozen species a day. So you can see how climate change is affecting habitats and affecting living conditions for animals and other living organisms. Now, carbon dioxide, we talked about it. We said that it's something that we breathe out as human beings, okay? But also, we said that is something that is obviously quite natural, but it's something that's colorless and odorless, but it's absorbed by plants and it's absorbed by animals. But carbon dioxide, when there's too much of it, becomes quite dangerous, because we said that we end up with a greenhouse effect, and we have heat trapping that's going on in our atmosphere. Next one, emissions. Now, emissions. When you think about emissions, some of you might think about the fact that if you're in London, you're not allowed to drive certain cars that cause too much emissions. Cars that actually, that chug out loads of carbon emissions into the environment. You're not allowed to drive them into London unless you pay about £15 for the day to go into London with these cars. Emissions are the releasing of greenhouse gases into the air. This process can be achieved by burning fossil fuels, melting permafrost. This is a thick layer of soil that remains below freezing point, okay, in polar regions, or industrial agriculture. Such gases actually cause heat to be trapped in the atmosphere, which we have explained before. So let's keep going. The sea level rising. Now, I think most of you know exactly what we mean by the sea level rising. If you don't, it just means where you've got ice that's melting. It causes the actual, it causes basically sorry, let me just pause, getting tongue-tied. Let me go again. So it causes the actual sea and the oceans to actually basically just increase in their vastness and expanse. Now, what is the danger, do you think, of the sea level rising? Can anybody post in the chat, what's the danger? If you live in a coastal town, for example, what's the danger? I'm going to find you a video of something that happened in Norfolk 6 years ago.
All right, does anybody have any answers for that? Let's see what we've got. Somebody's put a tsunami down. I haven't got anything else coming through. Does anybody know what the dangers are of sea levels rising? All right, somebody said, Hannah said the water could overflow and end up on the lands or where people live.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, we have disappearing islands, damaged infrastructure.
You got it. Okay, let me show you what happened to the infrastructure in Norfolk. So if you're from England at all, you might know Norfolk on the coast in East Anglia. Now, this is, hopefully you can see this video on the screen. This video is taken from 6 years ago where this man, Stephen Chadwick, woke up one morning, this is Stephen on the screen, went to have his hot drink, and then he looked outside and was like, oh my days, my garden is almost gone. The cliffs basically disappeared. And as you can see, like with the sea level rising, you've got really fierce waters, you've got strong waters, and you've got waters that are the tides of the water are basically really strong and they're bigger, and so they're coming in. Can you see how the tides have actually eroded away the cliff edge? And now this is Hemsby, and all these houses are basically really, really vulnerable as a result. So there we go. Let's stop that. And let's go back to sharing the screen.
Somebody did pose the question saying, if cows are causing so much methane, why God created cows and what shall we do with them?
That's a good question, actually, because I think you'll find that a lot of people are saying that they've decided to go vegan because there's too much agricultural farming and too much beef production. Obviously, everything is good, isn't it, in balance? But if you're going to overfarm, if we're going to, over milk cows and, overproduce beef and have so much agriculture, then there is a problem. It seems as though us as human beings, we've actually created a situation where we've abused one thing and we've caused more problems for ourselves. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. I think the person was also hoping that we should just eat the cows, but at the moment, I think that we're going to go with that. Thank you.
Okay, so geoengineering. So you guys need to get writing. Geoengineering is where we try to actually counterbalance the effects of global warming. So we try to either capture carbon in the atmosphere and store it, or we try to kind of reflect the sun's light back into space. Okay, next one, deforestation. You might know loads about deforestation, or maybe not. Deforestation is where we are basically removing loads of parts of the forest, and we're taking selected areas of trees. What are we removing the forest for? If you guys can talk in the chat, what are we removing things for? Well, there's lots of reasons why. Maybe you can come up with these. Maybe some of you might say for wood and for paper. Maybe we're removing parts of the forest because we want to make way for more livestock and more planting of crops, for planting soybeans or for planting palm oil. I don't know. There's lots of different factors, but this is the issue. When we actually cut down the trees, we release carbon into the atmosphere, and furthermore, when we're actually chopping down these trees, these trees are trees that actually absorb some of the greenhouse gases, but we're taking the equivalent of about 36 football fields a minute. That's absolutely insane. Can you imagine 36 football fields a minute being chopped down around the globe? And can you imagine 80% of all the world's species actually live in these forest areas or in the rainforest? And what are we doing to them? We are basically killing loads of animals, or we're causing them to actually have, no habitat to reside in. Okay, so what can you guys do about this is the question. What can we do? Now, if you want to do something about this, you could maybe, for requirement number 4, write down that you could study climate science. To actually study climate science somewhere like the University of Cambridge or at one of our Adventist institutions, you would study to a minimum of what we call undergraduate degree level. So, with this, you could then go off and you could get loads of jobs in this area. You could do conservation, you could work to look at changes in the environment, you could study biology, chemistry, physics, and all of these things would be wonderful, because we need people like you guys who are the people of the future to help out with this problem. What could you do is the question. So for requirement number 5, what you could do is you could be an environmentalist. You could be a person that's concerned about protecting the environment. Or if you're interested in water, you could be somebody that's a water scientist. You could look at the quality of water. When I went to university, Pastor, have you ever drunk any water, or Natalie, and thought, oh my days, my stomach is killing me?
No, I never drank. My mom told me not to drink water anywhere else except the tap from home.
Fantastic. Well, Natalie, you were talking earlier on about going to university. When I went to university, I drank the water straight from the tap in London, and this is from the Thames, and I had the worst belly ache ever. I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't used to drinking such hard water. This is something that, people need to be concerned with, and we need people like water scientists to protect us, so that there's water in the ground and there's water for us to drink. And even being a soil and plant scientist, we need to gather information about what's going on with soil, so that we can carry on producing. If there's no soil, what's going to happen?
Somebody says the nation that destroys its soil destroy its life. So I guess if there is no good soil, there is no food.
There you go. How are you going to get food? Okay, so, or you could be an animal scientist. Okay, maybe you might think, oh, well, I can just eat animals, but animals still need food. So you could develop ways to actually look at quality farming. You could do research. You could report in the community. Or you could be a food scientist, and you could look at nutrition and how we consume things and whether it's safe for us to eat or not. There are lots of jobs within this field. You'd be surprised. Everybody needs to eat, right? Or maybe even a hydrologist. You could look at what's going on in terms of volume. You could look at things like the streams and soil samples, and you could gather data, and you could report back problems from erosion. So, if you think back to Norfolk and Hemsby and what was going on there, you could report back the issues, concerned with the changes in the water movement. Or even you could be like this man. This man is Warren Washington. If you don't know who he is, he was an advisor to 6 US presidents, from Jimmy Carter all the way to Barack Obama. And after 54 years of working at the Center for Atmospheric Research, he basically retired from his role on reporting on climate change. He was a climate advisor to the US presidents. So that's pretty cool. That's a really cool job. And then we've got another career for you. How many of you guys actually bother to recycle?
I bother.
Oh, that's good. Natalie, do you bother to recycle?
I do. In fact, yesterday my kids were looking at our recycling box saying, Dad, didn't you just empty that yesterday morning? But it had already filled up by the time we got round to the evening, and my husband was saying, yeah, that's how much packaging people use to provide all the food that we have. But we do recycle. I said, imagine if we weren't recycling, that would all end up in the rubbish tip somewhere.
Also, right, to point out that Natalie recycles really well in office as well, probably better than I do. She even has a bin right now, which she collects all the paper, then she takes it down to the recycling area. Oh yeah.
I love that. The thing is, we recycle here at home, and we try to recycle, glass. We recycle as much as we can. Why? Because if not, it goes to landfill. When it goes to landfill, we're basically just sending out more methane into the atmosphere and other harmful gases. So it's really important. So we need people to actually monitor this. But boom, how many of you dream of maybe having a Tesla? Dun, dun, dun.
I dream of having some electric vehicle one day for sure.
So me too, but this is the thing. We actually need people to look at electrical vehicle manufacturing. In the UK, we've made a commitment to trying to introduce more electric vehicles, into the UK instead of using diesel, for instance, or other types of fossil fuels that are actually harmful to the planet. People like BMW and Chevrolet and Ford and Volkswagen and Kia and Tesla, they all need people who are interested in this. Okay, and then this is our last career that we can identify, and that is an atmospheric scientist. This is someone who studies and actually predicts the conditions, for events that are going to happen. They actually look at climate patterns and try to understand what's going on, and they look at the effects of air pollution. And so this is the last career that maybe our Pathfinders can consider. So we've spoken a little bit, haven't we, about climate change. We've spoken about greenhouse gases and how harmful they are. We've spoken about the importance of recycling, and we said what climatology is, okay? But we want to think about, well, as Christians, should we really be concerned about this? I predict that there's probably a lot of us who don't bother to recycle, or we're not so bothered about climate change. Should we be concerned, yes or no?
It's a question for everybody there, and I think it's a very valid question because our theology sometimes kind of makes us think very differently about all of this. So what do you think, guys? Do we think as Christians, number one, as Seventh Adventists, do you think we should be recycling?
Should we be concerned about, what's going on with the climate?
We only have one yes.
So
I think that maybe we need to repeat this honor sometimes, but yes, I think that we should be.
Okay, so let's think then from a biblical perspective as to why we should be. Let's see, I think the main thing to zoom in on is probably Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. So if our Pathfinders are quick and they want to go on Google or use their Bibles, they can have a look. If not, I'll read it to you. Now, I think as Christians, we should be concerned about climate science because these are the instructions that God gave to Adam and Eve. This is what it says in Genesis 2:15, and I'm reading from the New King James Version. It says, "Then the Lord took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend and keep it." If you're going to tend and keep something, are you going to wreck it? Are you going to just, throw your rubbish out the window in the car when you're driving? Are you, if we put this into a modern kind of change it and put it into a modern scenario, when we are doing things, are we just going to send everything to landfill? Or are we going to actually cause, loads of plastic to end up in the ocean by poorly disposing of it? Or could we actually try to reuse it, or even not use so much plastic? Well, the Bible's quite clear in that, Adam and Eve were supposed to take care of the garden. They were supposed to look after it. So I'm sure if they, if they were around now, they would be modern people and they would try to do the right thing. So let's see. What about this one then? Let's go to Numbers 35, verse 33 to 34. This is what it says. It says, "So you shall not pollute the land where you are, for blood defiles the land, and no atonement can be made for the land, for the blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of him who shed it. Therefore do not defile the land which you inhabit, in the midst of which I dwell, for I, the Lord, dwell among the children of Israel." If you're not going to defile something, you're not going to wreck it. And if you go on to looking at the rest of these verses, what you can do as Pathfinders is have a look and actually write out what these verses actually say and what they mean after. You'll find in Ezekiel that God actually says through the prophet Ezekiel that you guys have basically muddied up the water. So that's not a good thing, surely. And then you'll find in Jeremiah, it says that I brought you into a bountiful land, but when you entered it, you defiled my land and you made my heritage an abomination, which means detestable. Now, maybe that was maybe that was just through the people and what they were doing, or maybe even they just weren't taking care of the land. Who knows? So let's move on. Now, can anyone type in the chat for me? What is the issue with these things? So requirement number 7 says, should Christians be concerned about melting ice caps and rising sea levels and stronger storms and pollution? Why should they be? Why?
Yeah, the question there for everybody, guys. Everything is on screen. Should we be concerned with this? Melting ice caps, rising sea levels, strong storms, pollution. If you think, make sure you say yes. If you don't, say no. We will not judge you. Maybe. Maybe. So the answers, some of them are coming in slowly. Yeah, some people are saying, yeah, that we should be concerned about it. Somebody says maybe. Ooh, right.
Maybe.
Okay. Somebody says yes. So that other people can live in this world after, I guess. Yeah, that's right. All right. What is your answer?
So I would say definitely, because, if you think about melting ice caps, if you can see on the screen, it's a little polar bear, if we are going to allow, the Earth's temperature to get warmer, so the ice caps are melting and the sea level's rising, where's the poor little polar bear going to go? And where's it going to live? We're going to find that lots of our animals are becoming extinct, right? And if we've got things like stronger storms, in 2020, okay, it's been a crazy year. We're doing our honors online, but also it's been crazy in terms of storms. There's been a lot of storms in 2020. I think, was it last year, there was the terrible storm, not storms, there was a storm in the UK called Storm Dennis even, and it caused some serious landslide, and the people of Wales were absolutely, not obviously all the people, but some people in an area called Wales. We have our Welsh mission here in the BUC. Some of these people were devastated by this storm. Their houses were ruined. The places they've lived for centuries, are actually ruined. So this is a serious issue. And obviously pollution. If we don't care about, how many cars we drive in or how many factories are around, then are we basically saying that we don't care if the atmosphere is pretty bad, or if it gets really too bad and becomes inhabitable or uninhabitable even for us? Is that what we're saying? So I think we should be concerned as Christians. We should want good things. That's what I think anyhow. So
Shannelle, just before we go on, a question has come in from Pastor Clifford. I'm asking him to unmute, see if he can answer his own question.
Please.
Should Adventists be concerned about protecting the planet if Jesus is coming and going to destroy it anyway? So, why should we be careful now when we know ultimately it's going to come to an end? So I wonder if Pastor Clifford would like to come on and maybe just answer that question.
I think that Natalie, he asked a very valid question. Maybe he was not ready for this, but Pastor Clifford, are you able to give us a little bit of answer on this? What is your opinion? Maybe he's
yes. Thank you, Shannelle, for that. Because I'm asking more in terms of, because I want the kids to think about it. By the way, I did my master's dissertation on this very subject, so I'm very much interested in that, and especially this question: should we be, as Adventists, be doing this if Jesus is going to destroy it anyway?
Hey, well, someone's given an answer. Somebody has typed in an answer.
Okay.
And they just said we're to occupy until he comes, and that means we're to be good stewards.
That's right. In other words, my answer to that is, just because everybody's going to die one day because we're getting older, right? Does that mean we shouldn't take care of our bodies right now? Yes, we should. So just because Jesus is going to destroy the earth and bring a new one, doesn't mean we should not take care of what we have. It's our responsibility. It is our stewardship responsibility to take care of it, even if Jesus is going to renew it. So it's a question of responsibility and not take anything for granted. We have a responsibility. We have to eat. We have to look after our bodies anyway. And in fact, if we look after this, we don't know how long Jesus is going to take to come. So we don't want the earth to be destroyed before he comes. We want to look after it, and it is our responsibility to look after it, even while we wait for Jesus.
Brilliant. That's the ultimate answer, surely. I was going to ask you, but what about the fact that we don't know when Jesus is coming? That's the whole point, because we don't know, therefore we have to try and look after it.
Yes.
Thank you, Pastor Clifford. Okay, this is what I want everybody to do. We haven't got a great deal of time left, but I'm going to help you to answer requirement number 8. And then number 10 and 11, I think we should be able to do probably away from our screens. And then the last ones we have kind of been discussing as we're going along, and Pastor Clifford has actually helped to answer one of our last requirements anyhow. So let's think back to those trends that we looked at when we looked at the trends before. So what we want to answer is, looking at the graph, and we've seen that there's changes in the actual temperature of the globe. What are the natural factors that are changing the climate, and what are the human factors? And I mentioned them, so if you were listening, you would have definitely got them. So you can, let me go back. So what are the natural factors that are changing the climate, and what are the human factors?
Just because of time, maybe this would be a good something to do as a homework as well. So because we have an next presenter in next 2-3 minutes. So,
okay then.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. So you can do this one as homework. Now, based on, I have told you a little bit about this. So based on the research that you do and thinking about climate science, you can think about marine life and wildlife that's affected, and you can write a little bit about it. You can talk about sea turtles, you can talk about the koalas, the polar bears, butterflies, the monarch butterfly, all of these species that are going extinct for requirement number 9. Okay, and for requirement number 10, this is the one that I said that you'll need to do away from the desk and then submit it. Pastor was saying that he publishes your work. It doesn't matter if we're a little bit older and we're Pathfinders, we still want to see your beautiful work because we take pride in it.
Yes, we do.
If you can create a poster for us, we would love it, about the human impact on basically on the globe, and if there's anything we can do to actually to reverse the impact. So you'll have a look on my slides, you'll see that I have put I've got this poster. We've got stuff like exhaust fumes, landfill, deforestation, and then things to reverse it: recycling, protecting greenery, wind energy, using solar energy, other forms of energy. So that's straightforward. For requirement number 11, this one's interesting. Now, I don't know if anyone's been out of Stanstead Airport anytime.
Everybody, but last year maybe, not anymore. Yeah.
Not in 2020. Okay, so you might know a little bit about Stanstead, or maybe not. Now, there is a link up here. I would like you to think about clicking on, well, not even just think about it, think about the pros and the cons. So we've talked about emissions, haven't we? And I want you to, for requirement number 11, think about what Stanstead Airport are doing well and not so well in terms of actually impacting our environment, or impacting the environment. Okay, so they're actually carbon neutral. They have a certificate for being carbon neutral. So they're running lots of initiatives to try and reduce their emissions and offset their emissions. They've got one runway, but they've got over 22 airlines and about 27 million people a year going through their airport. But they're trying to do things like actually have a generator that uses biomass, so it uses wood instead of other fossil fuels. They're trying to do lots of things to try to help, cause such serious impact. Write down the pros and the cons of what they're doing. And then these are the questions in drawing to a close. So for requirements 12 and for requirements 13, or you want to think about something that you could do. Now, what could we do to actually, kind of basically help our environment? So how should Christians view climate change? We have said that we think it's something that most of us should be concerned with. Some people have said they're a little bit unsure. Well, is there anything we could do? If we should have a greater responsibility, what could we do? Like, think about my church, for example, is there something that I could do at church?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Very good question. At the same time, not even, even just starting from yourself, sometimes by just doing some projects, maybe you can reduce the amount of the rubbish, or maybe something, or maybe shopping. If your parents are going, maybe you can plan how your parents can cut down on the maybe packaging waste or something like this.
Fantastic. There you go. These are some ideas. So I want you to use the space on your worksheet, and I want you to basically do a little mind map, or or just jot down, or maybe chat with someone else, some things that we could do. Maybe they could do some recycling. Maybe you could plant some more plants and things and shrubbery in your garden. Maybe you could actually sponsor some trees and get more trees planted. If we're cutting down loads of trees, maybe we need to try to actually replace them. And then for the last thing, there's a hot debate going on about climate change. We actually looked at Greta Thunberg, didn't we, as an example of someone that's really keen. And we thought about the 20,000 young people that actually joined in with actually demonstrating for their, for change, for people to actually basically take this topic more seriously. And so I would like you to think about, because this is a passionate topic, are there 3 reasons that you can give as to why, why you would have a point of view on this subject? What is your point of view, and what 3 reasons help you actually come up with that point of view? So this is the end of the requirement, and I hope it hasn't been, too much for you. I hope that although we have gone over some of the scientific elements really quite quickly, I hope you've got the gist of what's going on. In effect, people, in 2015, loads of governments met and they actually signed an agreement called the Paris Agreement to actually ensure that they don't go above like 2 degrees Celsius for the Earth's temperature actually getting warmer. And they try to actually limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius because they recognize that just 1 degree change can have a serious impact. And sadly, a lot of countries are actually not really helping to meet this target. And a lot of us as individuals are not really taking any responsibility personally about how we feed into the big picture. So I hope that we can be a little bit more concerned, and I hope that you have considered climate science, examined it, and thought about why some people think as Christians we should be more concerned. Thanks for listening.